My hat! Alright, here we are. We're going to continue disassembling the rear part of the car now. And for this, it'll be easier if I just remove the rear dampener. So here comes the shock. I'm going to be removing this. And it's just the two screws. I will be leaving this screw here. I'm going to change the position of the rear shocks as well later on, just in case you're wondering why I did not put it in the same hole. And I'm going to be removing this. Now in the Fortec class, one thing that you can do is you can adjust the suspension. By doing that, you can replace the shock oil. You can also replace the position. So those are things you can do. All right, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and remove this link. And sometimes you have to remove this link to free up. If you just remove the link, that will free up the dog bone. These you can bend if you take hard impacts from the side. So keep that in mind. Now the dog bones are different front and rear, just in case you mix them up. Let's just say you accidentally throw them on the ground. The rear ones are shorter, and the rear ones also have that little bulge in the middle. So if you can see that. So they're shorter, and they have that little weight, that balance in the center. All right, so this is now loose. Now I can remove the rear carrier, and it's just that silver pin. And here we go. And we have now removed the rear carrier. For this will drop out. If you were to mix the front and the rear, I would not worry about it. They're the same. And here's the bushing. Do not lose those bushings. And for the bearings, just find that little spot in between, stick your driver in there, and then just push the bearing out. There's one bearing. And here goes the other bearing. And the carrier is now free. In case you mix up the carriers and you're not sure which goes where, one, remember this side here, this white part, this goes toward the bottom, and this has to go in the car toward the inside, and this is going to go forward in the car. So you cannot mount it backwards, it will not fit. And you will quickly find out too if you mount it backwards, because on the GT body, the link goes down below, whereas on the Mustang it goes up here. So you will not be able to mount this link on the bottom if you mount it backwards, because then it'll go across over your drive shaft, that dog bone. So this is the correct position. Now at this point, all we need to do is try to figure out how to remove the arm, and it's pretty simple. It's similar to the front. We have to remove this diffuser in the back. And it's just 3 screws, and this will allow us to remove the rear block. And again, do not mix up the screws. Sometimes you have to replace these anyway because you'll scuff them up, especially if you replace the system with for example, a VXL system. Just to brush the system and you start running 3S, your car will start lifting off the ground. It'll scratch that, it'll scrape all these fins off. Keep in mind the center screw is a shorter screw than the outer 2 screws, so do not mix them up. Some of the parts that you may want to keep in stock for your Fortec, these you don't really destroy, but eventually you will if you do speed runs. But some of the things that break would be the carriers and the arms. That's something I would recommend you have spares. Since it's here, let me just remove this here. So the block I will just remove and I will set it this way. So I'm orienting those mold marks upward because that's the way it was. Now there is some grease here from assembly, not a big deal. But at this point I can just remove the pin and the arm should come off. Now if you forget which way the arm goes, right, just to make sure you don't mount it backwards, this angle goes downward. So the shock is going to mount low. That way if you accidentally flip it and you're installing it on the other side, if you flip it, let's just say you're installing it this way, backwards, it's not going to fit. One, you're going to notice the dog bone's going to hit here. So the other thing, if you see that bridge goes down. So this is the lower part. It has to go this way. So do not worry too much if you forget about a part. If you just look at it long enough, you will figure it out. Now, if you were to remove this rear mount, it's quite simple. You have two screws here, and then there's another screw there in the middle. Let's go ahead and remove. And by mount, I'm referring to the body mount, not the shock mount. And there is one. And here is the other. And then there will be just one screw in the middle, and that'll be it. Right in here. Here we go. And I'm just going to leave the screw in there, and that's it. So screw there, there, and then the one here. Now, this car does not come with a sway bar. You can get a sway bar kit. I am not going to get a sway bar kit because you cannot run a sway bar kit in a stock Forte class. It didn't come with it, therefore you cannot use it. That's the rule. So at this point, this is it for the rear assembly. So in the next one, we will remove the electronics. Thank you for watching.